All right, it is time for my weekly predictions. Here we go. So we got the wild card round this week. First game I'm going to talk about, got Los Angeles Chargers going to Baltimore. Now you guys already know I have the Chargers winning this game. I told you guys that yesterday in my overall playoff predictions. But let's go a little more in depth. So last time they met, the Ravens did come out on top and the game was in Los Angeles. So that was a big win for the Ravens. But if you look back at that game, the Ravens had 3 field goals, 1 offensive touchdown, 1 defensive touchdown. The defensive touchdown being a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And that, honestly, if you look at the score, 22-10, it looks like Baltimore completely blew them out. But you take away the offensive field goal, or the defensive touchdown, it's much closer than that. And then Lamar Miller's had I believe a 63-yard bomb to his tight end that went into the end zone. So in all honesty, Lamar Jackson's not going to throw that many dots like he did in that game, or a big dot like he did in that game. And you might hold him to field goals, but even if you do, the score of that game is still 10-9. It will be a hard game for LA because in Baltimore, that crowd is an amazing spark plug for the Ravens. And the Ravens have not showed signs of slowing down since Lamar Jackson became their quarterback. However, if you look at the Browns game, especially, teams are definitely starting to adjust to him. I mean, they put up 20 points, I believe, in the first half against Cleveland. It was like 20-7, and then the final score was 26-24. So they only scored 6 points in the second half, and that's because Cleveland was able to make adjustments towards Lamar Jackson. He definitely is a threat with the RPO, the run pass option, and just his speed is absolutely unbelievable. But I think the Chargers defense is just much better than the Browns. The Browns, they would constantly go into a zone. They wouldn't blitz very often. When they did, he would obviously read it and break out. So I think that the Chargers have the edge there. Another thing is that the Chargers will probably use Melvin Gordon a little bit more than last time. I think he only had like 13 carries for 41 yards last time he played against Baltimore. So they'll probably use him a little bit more. They will need to use him a little bit more because he's just such a big factor, and the Ravens' pass defense is really good. Their linebacking core is solid, but if you can get on the outside against them, you will probably get an average about 3 to 5 yards per carry if you get on the outside. And if Melvin Gordon breaks into open field, he is absolutely devastating towards defenses. My overall guess for this one is the Chargers come out on top with a score of 14-10. So Indianapolis goes to Texans. Again, you guys know that I have the Colts in this game. It's because the Colts are red hot. The Texans are as well. But I mean, the big thing separating these teams is quarterback. And I really do like Deshaun Watson. I think he is for sure the franchise quarterback for Houston. I'm glad they finally found one. But Andrew Luck is just an overall better quarterback. I think he's a bigger, more durable version of Deshaun Watson, where Watson does run the ball, not to the extent that, let's say, Lamar Jackson does, but he runs the ball extremely well, and it is definitely a threat, but he doesn't throw very often. If you look at his games this year, I think he had very few games over 300 yards, and they were all lying between the 175 and 250 margin. While Andrew Luck, he can throw a ball. He can throw a nice deep ball down the field. Not saying Deshaun Watson can't, but he doesn't do it as often as Luck does. Plus, the Colts defense is absolutely amazing. They have the best linebacker, arguably, in football right now. He's leading the league in tackles. Somehow got snubbed from the playoffs. And a secondary that's tightened up over the past couple weeks. So I expect them to contain the Texans' offense, and especially like their defensive line. Their defensive line will terrorize the Texans because the Texans' offensive line is it's the worst in the playoffs right now, and probably one of the worst in the NFL. So at the end of this game, when the clock strikes 0, the Colts will be heading on to Kansas City after a score of 21-13. Seahawks going to Dallas. This is going to be a huge game for Seattle, especially because the biggest factor is that it is in Dallas. Dallas is absolutely amazing when they're playing at home compared to when they're on the road. The Cowboys are going to need to rely on Zeke, however, if they want this game. And if you look at almost all their bigger games, I'm not going to count Week 17 win against the Giants. It was a useless game. They already did the playoffs. He's locked up. But if you look at their season, the most important games, they were low scoring, and Zeke was running a lot. So they need him to run a lot, and they need the other teams to not score for them to win. It needs to be a really low scoring game. Their defense has, however, helped them in the past couple of weeks with low scoring games. They have probably what could be the best front seven in the NFL behind the Bears. The Bears' defense is just absolutely amazing. We'll get to them in a second. But to me, quarterback is massively important here. Again, it's kind of like the Deshaun Watson, Andrew Luck thing, except you have Russell Wilson against Dak Prescott. Russell Wilson, by far a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Nothing against Dak. The big thing with Russell, he's got playoff experience. He's also got, I think, better IQ, better intangibles than Dak. And Russell Wilson could possibly be a top 3 quarterback that are currently in the playoffs right now. Dak has gotten better at throwing the football down the field throughout the season, especially when he got Amari Cooper and their brand new tight end who just showed off in Week 17 with 3 touchdowns. Like, if he can use those 2, then they have a chance to win this game. But he's called Dink and Dak for a reason, and I think Wilson, he's got more weapons, and he's got more experience in the playoffs. So expect the Seahawks to come out this one 17-14 as underdogs. Last game of the divisional round, you've got Philadelphia going to Chicago. This is the only game where I'm not picking the upset. Here's the thing I like. The Eagles, they are playing with passion and fire with Nick Foles under center. But the Bears defense is just so good. It's not going to do anything. Like, the Eagles offense will be shut down probably for most of the game. They will put up points, but it'll feel like a slow game. The Bears defense is just so amazing. The Bears, they were able to contain Todd Gurley in the regular season and Jared Goff and that entire offensive unit. I mean, honestly, if you can contain them, you could contain almost any offensive team in the NFL. So if they were able to contain Todd Gurley, don't expect Darren Sproles to shred this defense. It's not going to happen. So Nick Foles, he's had a nice run up until this point. I think he's 9-2 in games that they need to win, must win games. But I don't think he's going to come out with this one. And the only thing if the Eagles win, I think the big factor for that is Mitchell Trubisky. I will give him this much credit. He has been so much better than anyone would have expected. He has been completely different and has made so many analysts and everything eat their words about what they thought about him. Give some of that credit to his coach Pat Nagy. He is probably the coach of the year right now, if not Sean McVay. But the thing with Mitch Trubisky is he doesn't take risks when he's throwing the ball. And when he does take these risks, they usually don't pay off. His IQ isn't quite there yet. His football IQ, not his real IQ, but his football IQ isn't quite there yet. I think it could get there. I think he could be a top 10 quarterback in the next 2 or 3 years, but he's just not there right now. When he does take risks with throwing the ball downfield, they're usually about 50-50, sometimes even 40-60, and it's not paying off for the team very well. And the Bears defense is dominant, so even with the Trubisky worries, I say the Bears win this game 24-17 at home.